A trickle of aid reached Gaza over the weekend and Monday, but the hunger crisis remains dire. More than a dozen people have died from malnutrition in the past 24 hours. It's according to regional health authorities. Gaza's entire population faces food insecurity due to what officials call an Israeli aid blockade. Israel continues to deny there is starvation in Gaza. And for more insight into the aid situation in Gaza, let's turn to Michael Lynk, Professor Emeritus of Law at Western University in Canada. He's also a former UN Special Rapporteur on the human rights in the Palestinian territories. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Michael, paint a picture of the current humanitarian situation in Gaza right now. Is it worse than it's ever been?
In the almost 22 months of this conflict, this genocide, this is probably the worst that it's been. We who observe this closely keep thinking there's going to be a bottom to this, and the bottom keeps moving lower. We have starvation across the Gaza Strip. There are more than 2 million Palestinians who wind up living there. Most have no shelter. Most have very little access to clean water. The food that is coming in is significantly insufficient to be able to feed the population. The UN is saying that a third of the people in Gaza are eating one meal perhaps once every 3 or 4 days with respect to this. And this is primarily and almost solely the responsibility of Israel. It has responsibilities under international law as the occupying power, but it has blocked the UN largely from being able to deliver food since the beginning of March, when it instituted an 11-week-long total blockade of food and fuel going in. And in the last 2 months, since it allowed some food to come in, it's not been at scale. During February, when the UN was monitoring food, it was bringing in around 600 to 650 trucks a day on average. Somewhere between 70 to 150 trucks a day on average are entering. So you can tell just by that how little food is getting in.
What are aid agencies reporting from inside Gaza? I mean, we're talking about safe distribution. Are there any safe ways left? And if you can explain for our audience the logistics of this all and why it seems so challenging, it's not as easy as just allowing something to go in and out.
Sure, but we should say that when the UN was running food distribution during the height of this war, from October 2023 until the end of February, beginning of March 2025, it was able, because of the volume of trucks getting in most days, it was able to feed the population. It was able to create 400 different food depots. It was bringing the food basically to where the people were. Since late May, when Israel took over the distribution of food and the number of trucks entering dropped precipitously, there has been only 4 food distribution sites which it's allowed to operate. They're generally in fences where people are herded to get food. There's obviously pushing and scrambling to try to get the food because it's never enough for the number of people who wind up showing up. And these are people who walk 5, 10, 15 kilometers in order to get the food, some of them not getting anything, and then trying to bring that food back. And we also have to remember there's a big problem with fuel getting in. It's one thing for a father or a son to bring back a sack of flour to where their family is residing. But if they don't have fuel to be able to turn that flour into something edible, it's not going to do much for them.
Michael, could the blocking of food aid be considered a war crime under international law?
Very clearly. Blocking food deliberately to a civilian population during a conflict is a war crime. It could amount to a crime against humanity, and it could be part of a wider program of genocide. We know in November 2024, the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. And one of the charges against them is the use of starvation. And that was before we had this total blockage of food in March, April, May, and now this mad scramble for food through this poorly designed distribution system that the Israelis have set up since late May.
So we've seen this over and over again, ceasefire talks, humanitarian pauses. I mean, really, what would it take to change the trajectory of this crisis? And then how long would it take for the conditions to change once aid started getting in and then people's health to turn around?
Sure. First of all, there's not a lack of food. There are several thousand trucks between the border of Gaza and Al Arish in the Egyptian Sinai, which have food products, some of which are going bad because they've not been allowed, they've passed their expiry date. But the food is there, ready to be brought in. But to answer your question simply, what would it take? A total and permanent ceasefire. And let's remember that the UN has been calling for a permanent total ceasefire since November of 2023. And the UN Security Council indeed has passed 4 resolutions demanding a ceasefire over 2024, and yet none of this has gone into effect. Only a ceasefire will allow humanitarian aid to enter into the Gaza Strip at scale to the needs of the population, allow them to take a breathing room, and allow the beginning of both political, social recovery, and obviously construction and reconstruction to wind up taking place.